Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the East Side Criterium that took place on Sunday the 20th of August. Let's head over to the GoPro footage and see what went down.
So yeah, at East Side Crit, do some criterium racing. Going to be in the BCAT with the vets and the under 17s. So I'll be racing with two of my boys in the under 17s and use some tactics and see how we're going to put some racing on. Let's see how it goes.
And we're off. Immediate attack from one of the youngsters. 8 laps to go. First part of the circuit is pretty fast. We're touching speeds over 50 kilometers an hour. I think the majority of the vets would be the ones to watch here. Martin Pieterse, Alex Pavlov, Stephen Olberosa, Carl Lotter, Peter Avenant and Daniel Venascio. The youngster who did the first attack was brought back. First time we're approaching the drag, it's 2.6% average for 1.1 kilometers. And we had our first attack from one of the vets from Northcliffe Cycles. And we had Ethan Wiesner cover that move. And as it all came back together, I decided to test the waters and put in an attack and see what was going to happen. Once I turned the corner, the drag's not totally complete yet. I was joined by two riders, one from Full Gas and one from Windspace Cycles. This is the downhill part of the course. Pretty fast. You can see touching 60k an hour. We started to work a little bit together. We approached the drag for the second time, and we had Ethan Wiesner put in a counter attack and take Alex Pavlov with him from Northcliffe Cycles. Then we have Stephen Olberosa put in a little bit of acceleration and ride across to Alex Pavlov and Ethan Wiesner from our team. So back onto the downhill. They are in the distance taking the next corner. Not much happening in the bunch at the moment. Northcliffe have a rider, and so do we. As we approach the finish line straight, we had an attack from one of the vets, Frans Fourie from Northcliffe. Following that move, Wijan Niuwoudt from our team, Martin Pieterse, Carl Lotte, and Daniel Vinacho are hopped onto the wheels. So we've just headed into lap 3 and no one else willing to do much of the pace making. We're rolling down the hill again. We're on the drag again, and 3 of the youngsters try to ride across to the break. Daniel Vinacho recognized that now that group can possibly become bigger and decided to up the tempo on the second part of the drag. Daniel was keeping quite a good pace, closed the 3 youngsters down. They didn't make it across yet, and he just kept quite a good pace up the drag. As we went around the corner, you could see the 3 in the break up front, and he held that all the way to close the gap down. So Daniel was fully committed to close this gap down to the front 3. As we rolled onto the wheels, I decided to counter-attack. So just try to keep the speed up and see if we can just try and roll a small group away. You can hear me saying to the guys, let's just keep the pace on. Stephen Alber is not afraid to do so. Seeing if we can just try and maybe ride a small group away. Here we've headed into lap 4, halfway distance. You can see in front on second wheel, Alex Pavlov not keen to work. This is part of the negative race that they were riding. I see this, and as Ethan rides to the front, I decide to move forward and kind of get in between Alex and the rider in front of him, which is Stephen. Ethan puts a little bit of acceleration and Stephen follows. I drop the pace a little bit and use some tactics to see if we can just let them ride away. They weren't really opening up a big gap. The guy's rolling through. There's Peter Avenant. For the first time we see him, he didn't do much attacks or any attacks actually, and it played in his favor towards the end of the race, later on winning. On the drag for the 4th time, we had Wijan from our team putting in a counter attack, taking Martin Pieterse and another vet with him. So what's happening here is no one really wanting to commit. There's a few guys now making a gap, nothing serious, but I'm basically sitting now to let the others come around me and see what's going to happen up front. I noticed up front that Wijan had swung off the initial break as he was not feeling so great. He was a little bit ill, and Martin and the one other vet was still up the road. Therefore, Franz and Alex from Northcliffe knew this, and the group in front was just too big and they had to close the gap. I then decided to put in an attack and try and ride across to the initial break with Martin and that vet, as this could be a threat. As I got across, we were approaching lap 5. I just took a little bit of time to catch a breather. So we were rolling through, I did my turn, and for some reason Martin decided not to roll through and do his turn. This was the negative racing I was speaking about, and we had a few words and then he decided to roll again and we lost a bit of time there. So Martin kept quite a steady tempo up the drag. We're going 300, 350 watts. And from the back, never even saw him coming, was Daniel Vanacho. Made a joke saying that we're fooling around and put in quite a massive attack. So there was no reaction from us three. I think we looked behind and tried to see what was still happening. We just kept a steady tempo, nothing serious actually, and tried to see what was going to happen first. Daniel was starting to open up a gap at this point. I decided to put in another move and try and ride across again. I rolled on the downhill, passing a back marker here. There was Daniel, trying to get on the wheel as quick as possible and see if we could maybe work together and open up a substantial gap. I immediately started rolling with Daniel so we could like really assist each other to work and really see if we can open up some sort of a gap. At this point, it seemed like Daniel was slowing down a bit. I was encouraging just to keep it up and push where we can. So on the drag, me and Daniel just kept rolling, trying to keep a steady tempo. That was Daniel telling me that we're not going to get away the way the race was panning out, and just as we went to the top here, he decided to swing off and call it a day in the break, and I just held a steady tempo, try to see if I could just slowly roll away or if someone can ride across. So what I was doing on the downhill was trying to just save some energy after the effort and try and see what was happening behind. If they didn't have any cohesion, that this recovery would help me a little bit later. So I was just trying to keep the speed up a little bit. Yeah, I'm rolling on to lap 7 with 2 laps to go. At this point, I started to pay attention to my effort and really try and keep the watts low. I look back and see I wasn't making much progress. Just really tried to recover on the downhill part now, as the bunch was not too far behind me. I decided to just really recover and wait for the bunch, as there was 2 laps to go, and see what else would happen. So I was caught as we approached the drag for the second last time. As we're approaching the second part of the drag, that's here by the circle, the rider in front from Winspace decided to start putting the pressure down a little bit. Alex Pavlov following him, me following closely behind. As he looked around, realized there were still quite a few of us there. Alex just happy to ride his pace now. As we approached the corner of the drag, Carl Lotte decided to put in an attack. Alex and Martin Pieterse jumping onto the wheel there. So that move was nullified, and there's a rider on the right deciding to press on slightly there on the downhill. Now we're approaching the last lap. No one wants to let anything go. Yeah, we're approaching the last lap to get the bell, and Martin Pieterse putting an attack off the front, and Carl Lotte following closely, with Alex following Carl. Not sure why he would follow this, having his teammate put the attack off the front. Carl Lotte swinging to the right, wanting to see what the rest of the bunch is going to do. Alex was signaling to Martin at this point to try and press on. Ethan Wiesner, seeing Martin up the road, decided to close the gap, ride across, taking Divan de Klerk from MG Coaching with him. Carl Lotte putting in a counter attack, seeing those riders trying to get up the road. So now at this point, with it being very fast, the rider's trying to get onto the wheels, Alex trying to follow Steven in front of him with no choice, and it all comes back together before we hit the final drag. So we're on the drag for the last time. No one really wanting to do anything as yet. As we start approaching the circle, Steven Olberoser decides to up the tempo. Things are starting to heat up, and Alex put in a massive attack over here. I slowly get onto his wheel. You can see it's quite an effort at this point in the race, and he keeps on going. He took a look and saw that I was there, brought the pace down a little bit, and as this happened, Daniel Vanacho pushed on the left with Peter Avenant closely on his wheel. This looked very dangerous. Alex wasn't going to close the gap. I jumped across, and as I got to them, they were looking around. Daniel moved right, Peter Avenant looking. I tried to press on. I thought the guys weren't going to do much from here. As I approached the downhill, I looked around, see the guys would not let me go at this point in the race. I swung to the right to see what's happening on behind me. And on the left, Peter Avenant just pressed on with a soft move. Daniel Winacha on the left and Alex Pavlov glued to my wheel. Daniel asking if none of us are going to do anything about it. No one willing to take that on. I sit here waiting to see who else might do it. Daniel moves to the left. I stay right just to see what Alex is going to do. And then Daniel opened up his sprint very early on up the road. Peter Avenant was riding away. I decided to kick, but had no legs. Eventually just sat up. Alex rolled past me for second. Peter Avenant taking the win, and I secured third. And that's a wrap for the East Side Criterium. Was some competitive racing in the B category. So please give this channel a like, subscribe, and share it with your cycling friends. And I'll catch you on the next one.